Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a great day. And today we're discussing inter-organizational collaboration using video, the session which was this week. So first of all, Adrian, please introduce yourself.
Good morning, Eve. Yes, good morning, everybody. My name is Adrian Beck. I'm an emeritus professor at the University of Leicester and the academic advisor to the ECR Retail Loss Group.
So about the session was awesome. We had more than 50 participants. It was a talk from Traegon from Starbucks. And first of all, we discussed the challenges. How do we exchange videos with law enforcement, and how do we exchange videos as per GDPR request? So what did we hear, Adrian?
Yeah, I mean, it was a real eye-opener, actually, wasn't it? Because you don't really realize the amount of requests that modern retailers get for video data that they hold. We're very familiar with companies having networks of video cameras covering their stores and so on. And we always think about it as something that they utilize for their own benefits. But actually, Traegon made it very clear that they get, perhaps as many as 600 requests a month from outside bodies for information that they hold through their video systems. So, it's fascinating just listening to the sheer logistical challenge of making that information available to other organizations in a way that is, efficient and organized. And it clearly struck me, what a challenge this can be if you don't have the right systems in place to help you do this.
And before that, they actually just burned the CDs. So there's a lot of manpower in simply copying the CD, doing the CD. So what do they do right now?
Yeah, we heard from a number of different retailers, and all were, at different stages of maturity in the way that we're doing this. I think what Traegon described was, they've been on a journey to deal with this issue of how can we do it more efficiently and effectively and cost effectively in particular. And so they really had moved to a much more network system where they could begin to not only gather the information more effectively, but also then get in a situation where they could share it through the cloud and electronically. And that required obviously an information system that enabled them to not only make sure of the veracity of the requests for the information. So who are we sharing this with, and should we be sharing it? Can we streamline that process? But then also making sure that the video information that they then went on to share was used appropriately and made sure it complied with things like GDPR, as you mentioned. So it was really a way of just streamlining what can be a very bureaucratic and administrative nightmare for a lot of retail companies.
So yeah, and he was mentioning 6 kind of stages of request, how they formulated it. So it's requesting the video, approving the video, downloading the video, then verifying, preserving, and sharing. So what they did at the moment is the share, preserve, and verify part. So they do still sort of analyze requests and approvals and download the file manually, but they're on the way to make that as well. So it's an area of improvement. From my understanding, the next step is actually make sure that some of the requests can just be approved automatically and uploaded to the responsible people without any intervention, which is the next step, I believe.
Yes, and it was, what really struck me, I suppose, is we often think about loss prevention as about sort of fighting crime and sort of dealing with shrinkage and all these things we talk about through this. But actually, this was, a very sort of unsexy part of the business, isn't it? Where, you're just getting all these requests for information and somebody's got to deal with it, And, what really struck me was the amount of time and effort that is required to do this. And if you don't have a system in place, then you could see how it just eats up the amount of time that people have to put aside to deal with this issue. So it was, for me, a very consequential part of investing in video systems is that you got to recognize that there's a tremendous recurrent element associated with this, which is not actually your own organization getting the benefit, but actually sharing that information with others in really quite a reactive but necessary way.
So I believe they had a return on investment within half a year just because they didn't need to burn the CDs, and they saved on the transportation costs on official. And here we're not talking about GDPR reduction. We're not talking about that part of the business, because this is where it gets to enormous amount of time to redact the video manually. It takes around 4 hours for 5 minutes video recording. And when you have a tool, for example, like genetic clearance, you can automate that process and it does this job for you. And then you just clean up and share the video file. So there are solutions on the market which can automate it, but they're very rarely combined together with this sharing tool. So it's kind of all in one, which brings us towards this full automated process.
Yeah, and I think, the other thing that struck me is that, where Traegon had got to by having this much more automated system is, for me, not only does it then begin to, make it less burdensome to share this information externally, which, clearly, it was one of the issues that lots of people talked about on the call. But I think once you get to an automated system, I think you can then begin to be more proactive in the way that you can use your video data, because if it's relatively straightforward to share, as opposed to being very burdensome and difficult, you're much more likely to do that. And so I think what some were beginning to describe was how they may begin to share their video data within their own organization to get benefits as well, because it's so much easier when you have some sort of system in place. So, for instance, sharing data with the risk department, for instance, to do with incidents perhaps of health and safety and so on. Or it could be that you can then begin to share that with non-security functions such as sales and marketing, where you can say, hey, look, we can begin to gather clips and share quite easily with you things that may be of value in terms of improving our business profitability and customer service. So I think there's upsides to this, other than just sort of dealing with the reactive pain in the neck side of sharing, to actually saying, you know what, we've now got a system that can perhaps facilitate our business in other ways.
Yeah, that's exactly that. And I think one of my customers used clearance to redact the videos for training purposes, pretty much do's and don'ts. And it's as easy as redact and show the best and worst practices.
Yeah, it's a good example, Eve. Yeah, excellent.
Great. So I will share the link to the full recording below. And of course, we'll be sharing some information in the article with you as well. And the next session will be around.
Well, it's going to be on the use of video in distribution centres on the 12th of May, 2 p.m. UK time. So we're going to be looking at, that part of the retail supply chain and how video can add value around that. And I suspect we're going to get some really good talks, I think, from retailers on this. But I think we're really going to be looking at how you can use video to help the logistical flow of product in those sorts of spaces. And so it should be another fascinating session, I hope.
Yeah, it all comes together. It's kind of becoming this holistic approach of this connected store, how we can move forward towards actually real interconnectivity. There are very rare situations when already implemented in real life, but when you actually take bits and pieces from different retailers, it's amazing that you actually can achieve when you have a dedication and dedication from your directorate.
Yes, I think you're describing a Frankenstein retailer, aren't you? Where we can bring all the different bits of video from all the different best practices, and we'll end up with the perfect retail environment. So I look forward to hearing about that, certainly.
Well, then I'm looking forward. We will catch up with you a week before to have a little sneak peek, and looking forward to see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Eve. Take care.
Bye.